Am I the asshole? AIT for telling my boss that if she wants this little girl to be suspended, she can tell the parents herself. I'm the lead teacher in a 2-year-old room at a daycare. I have a little girl in my class, Sophie, that has had an issue with biting the past couple days. Sophie is usually very sweet and she's very intelligent. She's almost fully potty trained at 28 months old, but she has a pretty severe speech delay and her mom was taken to the hospital by ambulance last weekend. And Sophie hasn't seen her since the ambulance took her, because the hospital doesn't allow children under 5 to visit. All of this is to say I strongly believe the biting is a reaction to the mum's hospitalization and her inability to communicate. The way biting is typically handled is the parents get a warning after the first incident. They're suspended for 2 days after the second incident, and we consider expulsion after the third incident. Everything up to expulsion is up to the lead teacher though, since our boss is never here. Whenever Sophie bites, I still have her grandma sign the incident report, but I don't suspend her. On Wednesday, Sophie bit a boy whose mom is friends with my boss. His mom complained to my boss about the bite, and my boss told the mom Sophie would be suspended. The boy got to school yesterday and saw Sophie, so my boss got another complaint because Sophie is still there. Then my boss contacted me and told me I need to have Sophie's parents pick her up because her friend is upset, but I refused. I explained their situation to my boss so she might have a bit of sympathy, but she still insisted that Sophie couldn't be there. I told her that I refuse to suspend her while her mom is in the hospital, and that if she wants Sophie to be suspended that badly, she can come down here and do it herself. Sophie is not suspended, but I still have to deal with a pissed-off mom, and my boss is upset, so I wanted to know if I am wrong for refusing to suspend Sophie. Am I the asshole? Fired Fed. I am considering cutting off every Orange Man supporter. Got axed. Not going to say which agency. I've always considered myself extremely tolerant and willing to love people as they are, even if we don't agree on everything. I've never been an Orange Man supporter, but I've kept it civil with friends and family that were. Some of them liked having a civil conversation about him. Some were belligerent about politics, so we didn't bring it up and tried to enjoy each other's company. Getting cut from a great job that I really believed in, with no notice, has been extremely traumatic. It's still raw, but I feel so personally betrayed by those that voted for him. I can't see past the politics anymore when I look at these people I cared about. Some have been contrite and apologetic, but then turn around and support him and VP Musk on social media. I just can't right now. I'm thinking about posting something and wishing the whole herd all of the best. Hope they have a good life, but I won't be in it. Or maybe I just quietly block all of them and focus on myself for a while. I do know that I will need to talk to my in-laws. I've always had a great relationship with them, but thinking of going to their house and watching Fox News almost makes me sick. AITA for feeling this way. Does it make me an AH for cutting all these 20-year relationships off? Am I overreacting and acting out of emotion? Am I the asshole? AITA for telling my parents that I refused to be around my Beal after his arrest. I have never gotten along with my brother-in-law. When he and my sister were dating, he was physically abusive towards her once, threatened my parents, and he is unpleasant to be around. Flash forward over 10 years and he was arrested for attempted murder after he became angry with another driver on the road and shot at them. He was able to plea it down to a lesser felony of shooting into an occupied property. And with his court date approaching, my parents brought it up on the phone. I stated that regardless of the outcome, I don't feel comfortable being around him or having my 2 small children, both under 5 years old, around him. My parents did not take this well at all and said they aren't going to choose between their children. I reminded them that he is not their child. We've had arguments with him in the past, and I'm not willing to be around someone who pulls a gun when his feelings are hurt, especially with my kids. I don't think it's fair for them to try to guilt me into coming for holidays because they don't want to uninvite him assuming he doesn't go to jail. AITA. Am I the asshole? AITA for breastfeeding my son around my father-in-law despite him getting upset. I 23F recently had my first child and have been breastfeeding. I don't use a cover because my baby doesn't like it. My husband's parents have commented in the past about my breastfeeding, saying I don't need to be doing it in public, distracting and showing myself to people other than my husband because it can wait until I can do it privately at home. The issue recently happened when my FIL came over to visit. He made a comment to my husband that I managed to overhear about how my top was showing a lot. I did notice him glancing down there a few times. I wasn't wearing anything revealing really, just a normal top, but I do have a bigger chest and a little skin was visible. I know my husband's parents don't like me nursing around them or near them. My husband had asked me previously if I could do it in my room to not cause a fuss when they're over. I was nursing in my room upstairs that day, but I was getting tired. I haven't been getting much sleep. Taking care of my baby, constantly going upstairs, and my baby was hungry. They were all busy outside and I was in the living room alone. I pulled my top down a little and started nursing my baby. But then my Phil came back into the room after coming back in the house and looked right at me and huffed a little. My husband and Emil followed him into the room, and she said, "You don't have to do that here, do you?" To which I didn't really know how to respond. My Phil, who moved more into the room in front of me and was looking right at my chest, muttered under his breath, "I'll just start walking around with my junk out, huh?" My MIL told me to take it to my room so her husband didn't have to see it all hanging out, and she motioned to her chest. I was just looking back at them, not knowing what to say. I kind of froze and just continued breastfeeding my son, and they just stood there watching like they were expecting me to move. And I just felt exposed and shy, wishing I had just done it in my room. My husband got them to calm down, and eventually his parents left the room with a little huff. My husband went and got me a glass of water. It got a little awkward after that. I'm not really confrontational, and for the rest of that day until they left, I just went to my room quietly to do it. They've commented like this before, and it's hurt my confidence, for example in breastfeeding in public. I really didn't mean anything and was just trying to feed my son. AITA? Am I the asshole? AITA for not letting my friends use my backyard for their wedding because they do not want me to bring a +1. Here is the situation. Last summer, I bought my grandparents' house. This house was the hangout spot for my friends and I throughout our childhood. This includes my friend Dave. The house has a sizable amount of land, which includes a lake and a gazebo. I was supposed to buy the house with my now ex-girlfriend Leslie, but going through the process of getting approved to buy, I found out that she has massive amounts of credit card and personal debt that she hid from me throughout our 4 years together. I decided to break up as a result. That was about 6 months ago. I met Leslie because Dave's long-term girlfriend Kim is Leslie's cousin. Dave and Kim are engaged and set to get married in April. When I was buying the house, they asked if they could have the ceremony at the gazebo, which I agreed to do. In December, I started dating again. Leslie has not taken this well at all. She thinks we are going to get back together and has tried multiple times to make that happen. I have told her in no uncertain terms that isn't happening. Dave and Kim have asked me to not bring a +1 to the wedding for Leslie's sake. I have told them that this request is ridiculous. This wedding is happening at my house, using my land, and I am not allowed to bring a date because of a crazy ex. If that is the case, then they need to find a new venue for the wedding. They are pissed about this, given the short time frame of when the wedding is supposed to happen. So we are at an impasse. Edit. I have seen a few things brought up a number of times in the comments, so I will quickly address them here. I am fully aware of the liability issues, which is why I purchased, and they reimbursed me for a special event insurance policy, which will provide 100% coverage for any damages, claims, injuries, etc., to any of the property or persons up to $2 million. It is one of the first things we did after I agreed to have the event in my home. The wedding will have a maximum, if every comes, of 75 guests, 5 catering staff and 5 security staff. The security is because this is an open area that anyone walking past can access. The house has hosted events twice this size, and logistically it has been fine. On the property are 2 cottages, one with 1 bathroom and the other with 2 bathrooms. The only portion of my house that will not be locked during the wedding is the finished basement. The basement has 2 bathrooms. Every person who is single, i.e., not in an established relationship, received an invitation with a +1, including me and Leslie. This talk came after I sent in my return card and indicated I was bringing a +1. Now they are saying they do not want me to have the +1 because Leslie blew up about it, and they are afraid of a blow-up at the wedding. Leslie indicated she intends to bring someone on her card. I do not know if she will actually bring someone. Update. So I met with Dave this morning. We talked for almost 2 hours about everything. I laid it out that I thought he was, at best, a shitty friend. I went through our long history of various things over the years that has me questioning our friendship. That was the bulk of our conversation. We then turned to the breakup with Leslie and the shit show of the last 6 months. Throughout the last 6 months, despite Leslie's craziness, I have bent over backwards to try and accommodate her feelings. She has shown up to my house in the middle of the night. I did not go for a restraining order. When I go out, I do not go to places I know that her and her family like to go. She has implied to her family and mutual friends at various times that I cheated and/or that I took advantage of her financially, neither of which is true at all. I have held my tongue to not embarrass her about these things in front of her friends and family. Dave knows all that and yet is demanding once again that I put Leslie's feelings before my own. I said, you and everyone need to stop coddling her like she is a fucking child. Dave concedes that Leslie has been crazy and ridiculous since the breakup, but he says she feels she did not get closure after the relationship. She wants to have an evening where she can talk to you to get that closure. He also told me that Leslie has been very vigilant about paying off her debt and paid off almost $10,000 of the credit card debt. She wants to talk to me about her progress, to see if that might cause me to change my mind. It will not. I asked him, so do you expect me to go to the wedding and talk to her? Because I have her blocked everywhere, and date or not, I do not plan to say a single mumbling word to her. He said, I fully expect she would lose it if y'all do not talk at the wedding. I told him if that is the case, then, for the good of my property, I can't have Leslie come. If she is so unstable that I need to be coerced into a conversation with her, she is too unsafe to be a guest in any capacity in my home. So I have told him, based on what he has told me, Leslie cannot come to my house or on my land. I am willing to still have the wedding at my place, but I cannot trust Leslie won't do something, given what you are telling me. Dave lost it at this point. He said, "Fuck you and your shit. I don't need it." So I said, "Then the wedding is off." He left. So that is the state of things. AITA? Am I the asshole? AITA for not wanting to tell my best friend about my relationship anymore. I-22F recently started a long-distance relationship a little over 2 months ago. My best friend, 24F, has never been in a relationship, so I thought it might be helpful to mention that for context. I live in a big city, and my boyfriend lives in another state, so we're navigating the challenges of being in different places. Before I started this relationship, my friend used to always ask for updates. She was genuinely excited for me, offering positive advice and sharing good energy. But lately, I've noticed a shift in her attitude, and it's been bothering me. For instance, I bought my boyfriend a gift for a recent holiday that's typically celebrated by couples, even though we didn't plan to exchange gifts. I didn't do it because he asked for anything. I just wanted to do something nice for him. When I mentioned the gift to my friend, she told me it wasn't a real gift, which caught me off guard. I was just trying to be thoughtful, and I didn't expect anything in return. But then she said it was a red flag that he hadn't gotten me anything, even though he's visited me and covers a lot of expenses when we see each other. When I asked other people for their thoughts, they were supportive, saying it was a good gift, and that I shouldn't worry about what others think. He loved the gift, which was all that mattered to me. Another time, I was updating someone else about my relationship, a conversation my friend was aware of, and she just walked away from the conversation. It was strange to me, especially since she knew the person and understood what we were talking about. It almost seemed like she was annoyed that I was talking about my relationship, even though she had asked me for an update. Now, I feel like I have to tread lightly whenever I want to talk about my relationship. I don't talk about it all the time, but when I do, I'd like to be able to share those moments without feeling like I'm being met with negativity or indifference. My other friends are always happy to talk about their relationships, whether they're in one or not, and I never feel judged. But with her, it's like I'm walking on eggshells, and I don't know if I should say something to her about it, or just keep the conversation about my relationship to a minimum. Should I address it with her, or is it better to just find other people to talk to about these things? Am I the asshole? AITA for setting up a camera in my boyfriend's room to catch his sister stealing my stuff and now refusing to go back to their house. So my boyfriend lives with his mom and sister, and since we live close to each other, I used to leave a lot of my stuff at his place to avoid hauling it back and forth all the time. You know, the usual shampoo, conditioner, skincare, even some clothes. Over time, I started noticing little things going missing. At first, I thought I was just being forgetful. I have ADHD, so losing track of my stuff isn't exactly unheard of. But then the incident happened. I had just bought a brand new 1-liter bottle of Wella conditioner, because hair care is serious business. A week later, almost half of it was gone, which made 0 sense because 1, I had also bought the matching shampoo, and 2, I always use more shampoo than conditioner. Yet somehow, the conditioner had vanished at twice the speed, and within a week, nearly half of it was gone. Now, I use more shampoo than conditioner, and my shampoo bottle, same size, was totally fine. Meanwhile, my boyfriend's sister, who had previously been complaining about needing to buy conditioner all the time, suddenly wasn't. So after a few more of my things mysteriously vanished, I decided I needed proof. I set up a camera in my boyfriend's room, facing the spot where I kept my stuff, and waited. And oh boy, did I get proof. Not only did his sister go through my things multiple times, but she also rummaged through my personal bag. Like straight up opened it and looked inside. Twice. And who knows how many other times she did it before I caught her on camera. At this point, my boyfriend and I agreed we needed to confront her. We told his mom first, hoping to handle it civilly. His mom called his sister into the room, and we showed her the footage. And this girl with a straight face lied. To our faces, even with video evidence. And then somehow I became the bad guy. His mom completely turned the situation against me, saying I had no right to put a camera in their house without her permission. Right, because catching someone stealing my things is worse than you know, actually stealing. Then, because apparently that wasn't enough, she decided to throw in, it's always your trauma and your ADHD, so you're never wrong. I took a deep breath, kept my cool, and said, I'm gonna leave now because this conversation is no longer rational. But go ahead and make me the villain, so you can keep letting your daughter avoid responsibility. Then I walked out. His mom never apologized, and I feel bad because my boyfriend is very emotional and isn't eating well. He says he doesn't feel hungry every time. Also, the way his mom said harmful things to me hurt me a lot. So I'd like to ask you guys, AITA for setting up the camera. A short edit to include some information. My boyfriend knew about the camera. Me and my BF are both 27, his sister is 21, I'm not sure, and his mom is 58. His sister has the means to buy her own conditioner. She gets what would be like $300 monthly from her dad and uses her dad's credit card. Am I the asshole? AITA for refusing to stop using my embarrassing lunchbox at work. I-28 bring my lunch to work every day in a bright blue Pokemon lunchbox. I've had it for years and I don't think much about it. It's just the perfect size, keeps my food cold, and honestly, I think it's kind of fun. Recently, a new coworker, Matt35M, started making comments about it. At first, it was just joking around stuff like, nice lunchbox, dude, my kid has the same one. Whatever, I laughed it off. But then he kept bringing it up, saying it was unprofessional and that I should grow up and get a real lunch bag. I told him I didn't see the issue and that it's literally just a lunchbox. But last week he took it further, telling me in front of our co-workers that it was weird for a grown man to be carrying around kid stuff. I told him he should worry less about my lunchbox and more about his own life. Now he's been acting cold toward me, and a couple of co-workers said I was being too harsh, that he was just messing around. But I don't see why I should change something harmless just because one guy thinks it's weird. AITA. Am I the asshole? AITA for speaking the truth about my sister and her husband, even though my family says I ruined everything. I never thought I'd be making this post, but here we are almost 2 years later, and somehow this situation is resurfacing again. I actually did speak up when it first happened. I made the police report, I provided all the evidence, and I did what I had to do. My sister and her boyfriend were arrested. But now because she recently tried to flee to Mexico, everything has come back up again, and my family has completely turned against me. People started tagging me, messaging me, and asking, "Is this your sister?" So I finally made a video about it on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook, just to put the truth out there. But now, because of the video, my entire family thinks I'm a monster, a cruel, heartless person for not staying quiet. But let me take you back to the beginning. My family and I used to run a restaurant. We were pretty well known in town, and I personally put in so much time, effort, and money to keep it running. It was my life. But as with any family business, there were struggles. Still, I always managed to push through. One night, while we were at the restaurant, my sister handed my wife her phone to charge. It was unlocked, and as my wife plugged it in, a message popped up from my sister's husband. The message was disturbing. He was commenting on a video my sister had sent him the night before. When my wife opened the message thread, she found the video of my 21-year-old sister and our 16-year-old little sister dancing topless. My sister had willingly recorded this and sent it to her husband. I was furious. I confronted my sister immediately, and her response was sickening. She admitted that her husband had a disgusting fantasy, and the only person she trusted to fulfill it with was our little sister. They had been grooming her, trying to convince her that one day they could have a threesome. I was in shock. I didn't want to believe it. I brought my mum into the conversation, but while they were talking, I kept going through my sister's phone. I found something that shattered me. There were messages about her encouraging my little sister to do things with her in my own house, under my roof, while my family and I were asleep. At that moment, I knew what I had to do. I made a police report that night. I took screenshots of everything. I did everything I could to make sure justice would be served. It took 2 weeks for the police to arrest them. And while they were investigating, I learned something that broke me even more. Years ago, one of my own children had also been a victim of my sister. The only reason I didn't end up in jail myself was because they were already behind bars when I found out. But here's where things get even worse. My parents bailed my sister out immediately. That same night, I walked away from the restaurant and my entire family. My parents wanted to cover everything up. They wanted to bring my sister back like nothing happened, keep running the business, and pretend it was all just a bad dream. I refused. I took my wife, my kids, and I never looked back. That decision cost me everything. I had poured so much money into that restaurant, and I was left to pay off the debt alone. Meanwhile, my parents sold the business, made good money, and moved on. They never gave me a dime. They left me struggling to clean up the financial mess while they started a new life. They even opened a new business in another city and had the audacity to ask me to help them with marketing. I told them no. Since then, I have completely cut off all communication with my family. My only family now is my wife and kids. Nothing and no one, not even blood, will ever make me compromise my values. But now, almost 2 years later, my sister tried to flee to Mexico after getting sentenced to 10 years of probation. That's when people started tagging me online, asking if it was really her. Now my youngest sister is online. Yes, the one I protected, trying to tell everyone that none of this is true. She says it's all lies. And honestly, it breaks my heart. I truly believe my parents have brainwashed her into believing that what happened wasn't that serious. They even said the charges there on her about my son should not be there because it happened years ago. But no matter how they try to spin it, my 21-year-old sister knowingly involved our minor sister in something deeply disturbing. I pretty much just presented what was on her phone, and also my little sister told her testimony. So I find it hard to believe they are saying I made all this up just to put my sister in jail. Again, I believe she has been brainwashed. The only reason why I made the video in the first place is because my little sister was commenting on the news, published everywhere my sister was caught fleeing to Mexico, and she was commenting to set her free, that she's innocent, etc. So because I have a following from the content, I make people that recognized my sister started tagging me and sending screenshots of my little sister bashing me online. That's why I spoke up and made the video. Even if my little sister consented, she was a child. I couldn't just let it slide, especially when it was my own sister's. And now, because I made a video about it, my entire family is calling me the villain. According to them, I'm the bad guy because I spoke up. Because of me, they say, the family is broken. Because of me, my sister had to leave her kids behind. Because of me, they're going through hell. But I don't regret it. I will never allow my values to be corrupted, not by money, not by guilt, and not even by blood. So AITA for speaking up again? Am I the asshole? AITA for doing nothing now that my sister calls me her half-sister. My sister 10F and I 16F are full sisters. Mom died when she was 2 and I was 8, and when our dad remarried, she called her mom, but I didn't. And I correct anyone who calls her my mom, even if that means correcting my dad, sister, or stepmom. To my sister, my stepmom is her only mom. Or at least she's the one she counts as mom. Whenever she talks about mom, she'll say, "Your mom" to me. When dad remarried, he told me I didn't need to use my stepmom's first name, and I could call her mom too. I told him I didn't want to. He warned me it could cause problems in the future, and I shrugged off his warning. Any problems are worth it to me. My dad doesn't agree, and now we have one of those. My sister's pissed on my stepmom's behalf that I won't call her mom and correct anyone who calls her my mom. So she decided if I feel that way, then we're half-sisters. It actually started because she told someone in school that we had different moms, and the other kid said that would make us half-sisters. So she decided she'd only say I'm her half-sister and not her sister. I'm not going to fight a 10-year-old over it or beg her to go back to saying I'm her sister. My dad's reaction was different. He was pissed and he talked to my sister and explained, "We're not half-siblings, and we have the same bio-parents. But she said we're half-sisters anyway because we don't have the same parents." Dad said it wasn't true, and she said I keep saying it that her mom isn't mine, and then we don't have the same mom and we're half-sisters. Dad talked to her a lot, so did my stepmom. But she's standing firm. Dad's more pissed at me than her. He blamed me for it, saying he warned me that there'd be consequences for drawing such hard lines. I told him that wasn't my problem, and I wasn't upset. He said I should be, and I should be doing something. Instead, I let my sister call me her half-sister without doing something. He told me I'm older, I can reach her, I can apologize for upsetting her and making her do it. Which made me angry at Dad because he was blaming it all on me. I said it was unfair he was putting her actions on me. He brought up consequences and how I'm doing nothing, and he made it so clear that he puts this all on me. Am I the asshole? AITA for treating my coworker differently after she accused me of making her uncomfortable when I covered for her at work. I 30M work in an office with a small team. A few months ago, my coworker Samantha 28F had an emergency and had to leave work early. She was supposed to finish a report that was due the next morning, so she asked if I could help cover for her. I had some extra time, so I finished up her report and sent it in under both of our names to make sure she got credit. The next day, she thanked me but seemed kind of off. A couple of days later, I was called into HR. Turns out Samantha had filed a complaint saying that my taking over her work without explicit permission made her uncomfortable, and that it felt like I was trying to undermine her. I was completely confused because 1, she had asked for help, and 2, I didn't take credit away from her. HR did an investigation, and after a week they cleared me. But the whole thing shook me. I never expected that helping a coworker would land me in trouble. After that, I kept things strictly professional with Samantha. I still say hello and work with her when needed, but I don't chat with her casually, offer to help, or include her in group outings anymore. She's noticed and confronted me about it, saying I'm treating her unfairly and being cold. She explained that she was just setting a boundary and didn't mean for HR to investigate so seriously. I told her I understand, but I need to protect myself too, so I'm just being more cautious now. She said I was being dramatic and should move on. AITA for keeping my distance. Am I the asshole? AITA for sending a 404 error not available auto-reply to my boss after work hours. So my boss has this habit of messaging me way after work hours like 11 p.m. on a Tuesday or 7 a.m. on a Sunday. And it's never an emergency, just random stuff that could 100% wait. I've tried to drop hints that I don't check messages outside of work, but clearly he didn't get the memo. So I decided to have a little fun and set up an auto-reply on my email and Slack that says, 404 error employee not found. Please try again during business hours. If this is an emergency, please reconsider your definition of emergency. Didn't think much of it until he messaged me at 10:30 p.m. on a Friday, and the auto-reply kicked in. Next morning, I wake up to an annoyed email from him, saying my response was unprofessional and that I should be more dedicated to my job. I replied politely saying, I believe in maintaining work-life balance, and that if something is truly urgent, he can call me directly. Spoiler, he's never actually called because shocker, it's never really urgent. Some of my coworkers thought it was hilarious, but a couple said I might have gone too far and made things awkward with the boss. So AITA for setting up the auto-reply instead of just ignoring his messages. Or is my boss the one who needs to chill? Am I the asshole? AITA for calling off the engagement after my fiancé kept saying I will give him a baby once we're married. My fiancé 31M and I 25F have been together for 2 years and engaged for 6 months. We've both wanted kids at some point, but never set a specific timeline. Lately, though, he's been making comments about how I'll give him a baby once we're married. The first time I let it go, but when he said it another time, I joked back, so that's my job now. And he just said, yeah, you're the one making it. I told him that the way he was wording it was rubbing me the wrong way, and he rolled his eyes and said I was overthinking it. But he said it like that a couple more times later. I started to feel less excited about starting a family. I told him straight up that it was making me uncomfortable after he said it like that again, later. He laughed and said, "It's not that deep, that's just how it works." And in that moment, I was starting to feel done. So I called off the engagement. He said I was being ridiculous over a poor choice of words. His family got involved and is telling me that I misunderstood him and that he just meant he was excited to start a family with me. I'm wondering if I overreacted. AITA? Am I the asshole? AITA for telling my mill it's not my fault she married a deadbeat and to figure it out. So I'm 25 and my husband is 28. We just had our first baby 4 days ago. I've just been released from the hospital yesterday. My MIL is bombarding my husband with calls because she's old and sick and wants him to take care of her. My husband took 2 weeks off work to stay home with me and the baby to care for me after the C-section and bond with our daughter. Mile took that as him being free and available and refuses to acknowledge that he's not on vacation. It hasn't been easy. There were complications and I lost a lot of blood. I'm in a lot of pain to the point where I can't even stand up on my own. Our baby is very fussy and crying a lot. We're not really sleeping because she literally cries every hour. The first time MIL called was literally 3 minutes after I gave birth and wanted him to go to her because she wasn't feeling well. She kept calling every hour when I was still in the hospital. My husband stayed with me the entire time because, like I said, I lost a lot of blood and wasn't feeling well. He put his phone on DND and didn't turn it on until I was discharged. We were still in the hospital parking lot when she called. He answered, and when he explained the situation, she lost her absolute mind, and he ended the call. She hasn't stopped calling him, and he blocked her number last night at 4 a.m. after 73 calls from her. She started calling me this morning, and I tried to be polite, but after 15 calls between 7 a.m. and 3 p.m., where she called me names, yelled at me, and insulted me, I snapped and told her to leave us alone because we have a newborn at home. She said she doesn't understand why he can't go to her, because her husband never took care of her after she gave birth and wasn't really involved with the kids until they were 3-4 years old. And I told her it's not my fault she married and had kids with a deadbeat and to leave us alone and figure her own shit out like an adult. My husband is on my side, but we're obviously biased considering the amount of stress we're under at the moment. So I'm asking because I don't know if it's just the stress and the hormones and we're actually the problem, or she is out of her mind to expect my husband to leave me alone at home in this condition. I'm posting here because I need unbiased opinions. I feel like an ass for what I said, and even if it's deserved, I shouldn't have worded my frustrations better. Am I the asshole? Should I just suck it up and apologize? Even though that's the title, this is more like a vent than actually asking for advice. I just decided to post here since I feel shitty and I don't want to bother my friends with this whole situation again. I 16F woke up on Wednesday to a weird text to say the least. Usually I wake up around 5 a.m. and before starting to get ready for school, I scroll on my phone for a little, checking messages and notifications I might have received while I was asleep. Now about 2 days ago, I woke up to 2 messages on Insta and I quote, "I'm going to rape you, and at least I don't live in poverty." Both messages sent by the younger brother of a friend who I had never really spoken to. I screenshotted the texts and sent them to my friend, and they said that his behavior was messed up and they were going to talk to him, so I was like, okay, thanks. Before that, the only interaction I had with the guy is him texting him that he liked me and sending me really corny reels, to which I never answered and went to tell my friend immediately because I found it odd. They said that he was just messing with me and to ignore it. So I did. The last time we ever interacted that I remember was him answering to one of my IG stories, spreading awareness about my country's horrible current situation, which is where the poverty message came from. I suppose making very insensitive jokes, and once again, I ignored him and kept just deleting and deleting the chat. I didn't even tell my friend about that one, since I thought they would just tell me to ignore it. But once I got those messages, so out of the blue a couple of days ago, I felt pretty shaken and genuinely didn't know what to do or really how to feel about it. I also felt a little threatened since I really didn't know anything about that guy other than he was my friend's younger brother. So since it was bothering me, I told some friends and asked for advice. I think this action is pretty normal, but now IDK, a couple of them, recommend me to report it to the deans and told a teacher I didn't think it would work since my friend goes to another school and for obvious reasons. Then their siblings would do as well. Not to mention I didn't really knew the guy's age. I only knew he was younger than my friend still. I was told they could send the complaint to the guy's school and whatnot, but that they couldn't do much since it was off school hours and the guy wasn't a student at my school. But they called my parents, explained the situation, and said we could press charges if we desired, since it counted as harassment. After everything was said and done, I went back to rehearsal since I'm part of my school play, and we have rehearsal every day after school, and tried my best to not let it affect me. My mom picked me up afterwards like usual, and once we got home, we talked with my dad and decided that we in fact would press charges and would go to the police the next day after rehearsal was over. I texted my friend all of this since I wanted to keep them informed, and also because I felt bad that the situation got to a point where their family will get involved with the police and know what their son sibling threatened to rape a girl, because let's be real, even if he said it was just a joke. What kind of joke is that? especially to someone you've never really spoken to. I just felt bad, not to mention that my parents will see my friend and their family differently. We also had plans for me to go to their house, but that's obviously not happening anymore, and I thought my friend was on my side, since at the beginning they also thought their brother's behavior was messed up. But the next message I got from them was a lengthy text pretty much excusing their brother's behavior. I'm going to try my best to paraphrase it. Yeah, I understand that my brother started the whole thing, but it was you who escalated it to this point. He is just 12 years old. He is immature and doesn't understand what he is doing. Now I get you telling your parents about it, but telling your friends. Now you could argue that you went to them for support. But my guess is that you told them because you wanted to have something new to tell them. My brother is a troublemaker who has bad influence. Friends. And they all influence each other. My dad is very strict with him and tries his best to correct his behavior, but still he's just young and immature, and this is all over the top. So yeah, the guy is 12 years old. Now I don't know about you all, but at 12 years old I was not doing that kind of stuff. Nor any of my male friends who are also disgusted by this kid's behavior. After I read that message, I started to rethink everything. Was I exaggerating? The kid is 12. Is this really okay? I mean, it was just a text, right? Did I do the wrong thing by telling my friends? Is that friend implying that I'm an attention seeker? I genuinely felt even more conflicted by the minute. I showed that message to some other friends, and they said that the friend that sent that text was an enabler, that the guy's age didn't matter, and he should be held responsible, because if not, then he would never change. And I agreed with them. They also encouraged me to drop that friend because they weren't really my friend. Once I get home from rehearsal, I spoke with my parents, and we decided not to press charges at the end, given that it's a complicated situation, especially with the whole immigration stuff going on here in the US. And I ended up blocking my friend with all the sadness in my heart and deleting our chat for my mental health. But now I don't feel so sure anymore, I mean. This friend was the first friend I ever made in high school. I started it pretty much completely alone, and we became really close real quick. They've seen me cry because of unrelated stuff related to my parents. They introduced me to one of my biggest hyperfixations. They made the classes that we had together more fun. They were even my platonic Valentine in 2024, as we are both a rose, something that we also strongly bonded on. I was pretty much like their daughter, and they had always been so maternal and overall never treated me like that before. My parents already moved on, but it's been a whole day since I blocked them. We used to text pretty much every day, send memes and whatnot. My phone is so dry now, and I've been feeling upset all day. My friends say that it's not my fault at all, and I did good in completely dropping my friend. But it pains me. I feel empty, and I'm very close to just cave in, and even though I don't think I'm in the wrong, try to make amends. So we can go back to how everything was before 2 days ago. I've always been a pacifist, and too much of a people-pleaser, something that friend always teased me for, and I'm not used to actually stand up for myself or anything. Even though I've been wronged in the past, I'd just let it go and continue with my friendships, like nothing, and I want to do it again. I know I shouldn't, but I just feel so sad. What makes me also upset? It's the fact that the guy will face no consequences for his actions at the end of the day, but not as much as losing such a dear friend and a big part of my life. Thalia, if you read this, I hope you can understand my standpoint.